following program is recommended for mature individuals and may contain material unsuitable for morons, cretins, and dishwipes. If you are a moron or a member of the PTL Club, please turn off your radio, because we don't need any more stupid, narrow-minded, pencil-neck geeks who wouldn't know the First Amendment if it came up and bit them on the butt. Thank you.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
Good evening, and welcome to this, your worst nightmare. Podcast is on the air. It's time for the Friday Night Spotlight on Ripper Radio.
It's time for the Friday Night Spotlight. In this edition of the Friday Night Spotlight, I have Joe Sims and Geoff McGraw from the band Axemaster in the house. How you guys doing this evening? Yeah, thanks guys for coming on for my 400th episode. It's going to be kind of cool. It's kind of hard to believe it's 400 episodes already. You guys were on the air a year and a half or so ago, back in May of 16. So it's time's flying. That's all I got to say about that. So a lot of things have changed since you guys were on the air with me. Would you like to give anybody an update on what's new with the Axemaster since the last time you were on the show?
First thing, Damon Bennett is the first time that this band now has ever got a dual lead, dual axe attack. So that's a big deal, and Geoff, fill him in on the rest.
Is there a rest? No, yeah, we added Damon, and he and Joe are doing all the guitar work now, so I'm just singing, except for one tune. We've got a new album coming out on November 24th on Black Friday, so Chaos Rises on Black Friday. The new album's called Crawling Chaos. And aside from that, I think those are the big things.
Yeah, we're right now shooting a video for one of the songs from the album.
Yeah, that probably is a big thing, too. Yeah. I have been so busy this week. Yeah, we actually started filming it on Wednesday night, and this Saturday night at Kent Outpost, we will be filming the rest of it, a bunch of live videos. We'll be performing with Metal Blades, Brimstone Covenant, Plague Wielder. So anybody who attends that show will, at least get their head in it, I would assume.
Yeah, if they get up to the front of the stage and rock out.
Yeah, doing live videos, those are always fun. I actually got to be a part of Man of War's Return of the Warlord video. They filmed that down at the Alrosa Villa. So that was kind of cool. Took half the night, though.
That was the one on the motorcycles, right?
Yeah, that's the one on the
That was filmed at the Machine.
Part of that was all the stage shots that were actually them playing on stage was filmed at the Alrosa Villa. All the outside stuff where the crowd was and the cops and everything was filmed at the Machine.
Yeah, in Massillon, because they pulled the cops actually stopped them and ended up being part of the video. So yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I didn't know that they actually filmed the interior shots at the Alrosa.
Yeah, that's the Alrosa stage.
Yeah, the Machine didn't have much of a stage.
No.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising Manowar even fit on that stage. Talking of the new album, this album's got a lot different sound to it. It's a lot heavier than your last release, I think. Want to delve into what you guys did to change your sound or your writing on this album?
Well, on Overture to Madness, other than as far as the music goes, now Geoff wrote all the words, but as far as the music goes, that album was about as close to a solo album of mine as you could get, really. I mean, I wrote everything. I even wrote some of the drum and bass parts. And, you know, it was just my vision. But then when, you know, the band became fully active and we added Denny Archer on drums, we started writing stuff more together. So all of the songs really, for the most part, maybe like I would come up with the riffs, but I would play them for the riff for everybody and say, hey, you know, what do you think of it? If they dig it, then we started working on it and concocted the thing together.
So it's more of a group collaboration this time.
Yeah. Other than the song Geoff wrote, Shallow Grave, where he wrote most of the music and all the words, I wrote, like, I would just record demo songs in my studio to a click track and take them to burn CD, take them to practice, see if people liked, you know, the guys liked it. If they did, then we all got together and worked on arrangement, different ways to play things, bridges, stuff like that. So, yeah, everybody had a major role in the writing this time that nobody did the last time on the music.
And Damon added the Dream Hypnotic track, too. That's all Damon.
Oh, right.
But, yeah, there was the writing difference was, I think, that. I don't think there was an intentional move towards being heavier. And some of the songs, I think, are heavier in some ways. Some of the songs, I think, are a little bit lighter. I mean, like, for instance, Bravado is a real tribute to, like, old new wave of British heavy metal, Judas Priest kind of stuff, and I don't see that as being overly heavy, but I think there's an eclectic mix of songs on this one, where the other one was pretty universal.
Yeah, it depends on really how you define heavy. I think that there was more of a thrash tinge on Overture than there is on this one. A lot more quick chugging guitar parts. You know, this one here has got more guitar that is open and not, you know, every note being muted and chugged. So, and that difference really, it happened with me, and it wasn't intentional. It was just kind of the direction I naturally headed with the riffs I was writing. Now, nothing about any sort of difference was intentional.
Cool. I'm just saying, like, the production-wise, it's a lot heavier.
Oh yeah. Well, the production was done differently. You know, an Overture, the whole production was done by me at my little studio, and at the time I really didn't have any experience at doing that. It took me forever. I mean, I put so many hours into that, man. It's sad how many hours I put into that.
Yeah, but I'd wake up in the morning and he was still working on it. I'm like, dude, your ears have got to be shot by now. Go to bed.
Yeah, like 5 a.m.
Labor.
But on this album, we recorded the drums and bass at a good friend's studio who really did us up right. Great guy. And I took those tracks, recorded the guitar and the vocals, and threw in any of the sound effects we used, and I edited everything to make sure everything was totally tight. And then all the tracks went back to Rick, and then me and him sat down, and he would mix and master, and I would collaborate on that.
And it certainly made a difference on the sound on this album. Speaking of the album, I'm going to go ahead and play a song from it. This is the title track, Crawling Chaos. You got anything to say about what's your inspiration for this song? Or
Yeah, you go with the vocals, Geoff.
It's kind of funny. I'm saying that I now have to write a third in this trilogy because there are 3 in the H.P. Lovecraft trilogy, the Cthulhu mythos. Because Sanity's Requiem on the last album was heavily influenced by H.P. Lovecraft and a couple of other things. So essentially, that was the first in the trilogy. This would be the second song. It is it is heavily influenced by H.P. Lovecraft. So this would be the second in the song. So now I have to write a third one because there are 3 stories in the H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu mythos, and I guess I now feel the need to write a third one to round that out. So that'll probably be on the next album. But H.P. Lovecraft. So this would be
this particular song is my favorite all-time song I've ever been a part of writing or recording.
yeah, I noticed this is the one that hit me the first time I went through your album, and that's pretty much why I picked it to play it the first time on the radio here at Ripper Radio. So, without further ado, this is Crawling Chaos. Hey, we're back with Axe Master. That was the title track from the new album coming out on November 24th. So make sure you guys get out there and grab up a copy. This is a killer album from these guys. Really like the artwork for this album. You guys want to talk a little bit of how that came about?
Sure. The artist's name is Noel Puente. He's from Spain. This kind of goes back to the last album. I had seen, we had some issue with the artist who had agreed to do the last album cover bailing on us with like a month left before it came out.
That month had Christmas included in it.
Yeah, and so Joe like scrambled to find artwork for it, and at that time I had seen Noel's work already for his band Abductum, and he'd done the cover art for several compilation albums that were really nice. And I contacted him at that time and said, "Hey man, I know this is like really short notice." And at that time he had told me, "Yeah, I just don't have enough time to do an album cover for you in that amount of space." So there was no harm, no foul. It was absolutely not his fault in any way, shape, or form. But this time I had, after talking to the guys, we made the decision that we were going to have a title track on this one. We were going to call it Crawling Chaos after the track you just played. And since that was so heavily H.P. Lovecraft, I talked to the rest of the band. I said, "Hey, I'm going to have a couple of guys like throw together suggestions, their vision of the album cover, what it should be." And then when we got a few of them in, and one of them was Noel, and I knew that Noel was going to win before. So I showed them what we had received, and I saved Noel's for last. And I said, "And this is Noel Puente. I think he's the best of them." And everybody seemed to like that one. So the pencil sketch, and so I went and got in touch with Noel again and asked him to do it, and we settled on a theme, and he started doing. I have the original art too.
There you go.
So I have the original painting here too, and which I thank him so much for selling to me, because he normally doesn't do that. So he came up with the concept. I said, "Look, it's H.P. Lovecraft, it's Cthulhu, and and he designed that album cover, and it fits perfectly."
First thing I noticed off of it was the dude with the Axe Master t-shirt. I thought that was a nice touch.
Which is kind of funny, because we had, I don't know if he'd ever seen that, but we had a very small number of black t-shirts with the green Axe Master logo on it. I don't think, maybe he got it off of the Pure Steel website. They have a handful of them, I think, maybe. But it's not a common t-shirt. I haven't had it anymore printed, so it's not like that's a major thing that everybody sees. But that's what he put on the album cover.
It kind of ties it all in that everybody's running from the album.
Yep. No. They're running from the creature toward the album.
There you go.
The creature's telling him to get into that record store that you can't see and buy it.
Buy or die, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty, but we're going to get into the next song on my list this evening. We're going to play the first single release. This is 10,000 Pound Hammer. You'd like to give us some insights on this one?
We're shooting a video for this song at the moment.
Yeah, this is the song we're filming the video for. Lyrically, again, it was one of those things. I very rarely write lyrics before music is written. The music usually suggests the lyric content to me. This one's actually kind of a tribute to military folks who are essentially the 10,000 pound hammer, the people who stand between your average citizen and those who would wish to harm them. So it's kind of like our thanks to them. That's kind of where the whole concept for lyrics came from. I don't know what Joe was thinking when he wrote it, but I sat down on the steps the night that he started playing it and wrote the lyrics for it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just jamming with a friend who wanted me to come over and, you know, just jam for a little while just for fun. And I came right there. I just out of nowhere came up with like, I'd say about 75% of the song just out of nowhere. So
sometimes
I thank you, Tate. Thank you, Tater Snot.
Yeah, sometimes jam sessions create the best kind of music because it's all about feeling and from the heart kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's strange though. I usually don't write that way. I usually write when I'm just screwing around at home, warming up to rehearse, something like that, and I come up with a riff and record it real fast. Is how I usually do it. But that one there, he was just like, play something. I'm like, okay, so I play it. I'm usually not good at doing that, but it just kind of hit me.
Cool. So this is 10,000 Pound Hammer up next here on our Ripper podcast. All right, we're back here with Axemaster on this Friday night. You guys were talking about you guys are playing a show tomorrow. You guys want to plug that a little bit? And is there any tickets available still, or can people get in at the door? Or?
As far as I know, both. Tickets are available on Ticketfly and at the door. I think your pre-sale ticket is $10. Door is $12.
Yep.
It's at the Outpost in Kent, Ohio. And we're opening the night, and Plague Wielder and Brimstone Coven from Metal Blade Records are also they're the other bands.
The headliners.
What do you call that?
Yeah, we hit the
headliners.
Stage.
Yeah,
we hit the stage around 9:00.
Yeah, we'll be on about 9:00. We'll be filming the last parts of our new music video during that show. And so if you're there, you might get in it.
Yeah, get up in front of the stage.
That'll kind of
ass off.
That kind of won't be our call. That'll be the production company taking care of that. But still, you still might be in it.
Yeah.
and it'll be the first show at which we will have the new album available.
Bonus.
Yeah, we got advance copies, and we got permission from the label to go ahead and sell them at this show, even though it's 6 days before the actual release date.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Steel seems to be a pretty good, cool guys. I get a lot of stuff from them, and they work with me pretty well, so I could see them doing
that.
Yeah,
they've always been. Actually, I owe, especially Andreas of Pure Steel, a lot of thanks, because the guy who helped us get the deal with them, he told me that they do not like their bands doing their own recordings, because he said you would not believe the crap that they've had come in that bands want to put on an album. I mean, crap sound-wise. And they knew when they signed us that the first album, that Overture, it was being done by me at my studio, and they put the faith in me that I could deliver and at least indie label quality sound recording, and working on an ungodly amount of hours, I was able to do it. So, I really appreciate the faith they put in me to be, that I could do that.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of submissions here and there, and sometimes you're like, these guys are on a label and they sound like they're like being recorded on a boombox or something, and it's like, okay, why would you release that?
I won't say any names, but actually, recently I heard a couple of bands that are, somewhat legendary in the underground scene that I hadn't heard a couple of their albums that were on labels, and I went to YouTube and listened to a couple of songs, and it's like, my God. Yeah, I mean, and they were recent, like within the last 5-10 years. They did not sound very good at all. Well, I won't say names, but I was surprised.
I think because back in the day, we didn't care. I mean, honestly, there are so many undergroundly popular albums that had production quality that was in the toilet. But
like our Death Before Dishonor album.
So I mean, honestly, good God, I mean, how many people were out looking for No Life to Leather, and that is a horrendously sounding release, even though it's completely non-label quality or anything like that. I mean, it was a horrendous sounding release, but everybody wanted it. Yep. So I guess it just depends. It really honestly depends on the band, on what you're willing to put up with.
Well,
yeah, I've noticed usually it was a lot different in the 80s. You could get away with more than you can really nowadays in the general market. Nowadays, people expect, digital perfection.
Pro Tools.
Not so much underground metalheads, but, just music fans in general.
or we're all kind of spoiled now. We like good production
Yeah.
sound, but I can understand like underground punk or something like that, but when you're on a decent like indie label and all the other albums they put out are really cool sounding, and then this one like Norwegian black metal band album comes out and you're like, and it sounds like somebody recorded it on a boombox, and I'm like, I can't hear that.
But that's what Norwegian black metal is supposed to sound like.
I know. But there's other ones that don't sound that. They actually take the time and spend some money, and
Yeah.
when the guitars are all mixed in so bad you can't even hear them over the snare drum, and it's like, why even bother being there? Just my little pet peeve. But off my soapbox now.
As doing a radio show, I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, because I want to promote people who are really into music too, and this I don't want to sit there and listen to it, and if I don't want to hear it, I don't want to put it out there for anybody else to hear either. So I don't know. If I could go back and remix it for him, I would. All right, you mentioned "Shallow Grave" earlier, so I think I was the next song I had put down here for our show this evening. You want to talk about "Shallow Grave" a little bit?
It's all on Geoff.
Yeah, most of this song is pretty much how it was written. We changed the end a bit, the very end of it, maybe the last 30 seconds. We changed from the way I had originally written it. And of course, we Joe and Damon added in the lead guitars, and everybody else wrote their parts. But the song itself is as it was pretty much written. This is one of the strangest for me, because it got written over a period of 8 to 10 years. So it wasn't like it was. I actually wrote the first verse. And the acoustic beginning when I was living in Dayton before moving to Chicago, and I didn't write. And then I wrote the rest of the lyrics after moving back to Dayton. And
yeah,
then,
I remember.
And then after that, I didn't complete the song until moving back here. So it was a period of 8 to 10 years over which it got written, and technically even a little bit longer than that, since the last 30 seconds got changed while in this band. So, maybe 12 years total. But I really like it. I like the way essentially the song is a surreal nightmare. The lyrics are intended to talk about somebody who is okay. The beginning of the song, Guy is disturbed that this person that it was important to him has died, and then by the second verse he's waking up and he's realizing something is wrong, and third verse he knows that he is dead too. So it's kind of a surreal nightmare kind of thing.
Yeah, when we were working on Overture and we had only known each other a couple to a few months, he was messing around and played the main verse riff of the tune, and I was like, dude, for the next album we're going to use this. I was impressed by it right off the bat, just by listening to just one riff. It's one of my favorite tunes to play live.
Cool. So this is Shallow Grave, and that comes to you right now on our Friday Night Spotlight Ripper podcast.
There's a candle burning at both ends over you. There's a window that it burns within, you know it's true. watching over you instead of me. Instead of me. Waking in a trance, you're lying next to me.
And we're back. Let's see here. I lost my place.
We all do that at times.
Yes, we do.
I don't. I'm so kidding. I so totally am all over the place.
It's a hectic world we live in, my friend. So, I am drawing a blank.
This is why you need show notes.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I like to do a little organic here, and tonight I went organic, and now I'm paying for it.
Okay.
So, what are your plans in the future? You guys going to do any tours here soon?
We're trying.
We would hope so, but it's very hard to get the financing to do it. we can't exactly, go out and get a loan to go on tour, because then if the tour doesn't make the money. So essentially what you really want is a promoter who will get involved in that.
Wink, wink.
Hint, nudge, nudge. And not, again, is not to mention names or anything like that, because that's not the point of this. But promoters are strapped too. There's there comes a point where like, okay, of the age that we are in this band currently, and with the things that we have to do, there was a place I really wanted to play. I mean, I've been trying to get into it for a couple, 3 years, and when we finally got the offer, I'm like, cool, this is what it'll cost us to come do it. And it was literally the actual, because I visited the city in question a couple of times, and I knew how much tolls were going to be and how much gas was going to run us for the van, and what it would, and what bare minimum cost for three rooms were, and nothing against the promoter. I mean, he's a great guy, but what he could afford to pay us was about a third of what it would have cost us to go, which would have covered the 3 rooms, not counting the other expenses. So, I mean, and like I said, nothing against him. That's what he could afford. And there are bands who are accepting that amount and forking out the rest out of their pocket. And that would have been something I could have done a year ago, but I couldn't this year. So it's a tough situation. I mean, all over. I mean, it's not like there's an arena someplace that is going to pay, $5,000 for us to show up. Today's market is playing to smaller clubs, unless you're a band who was established as a mega force in the 80s, like, your Metallicas, or even the 70s, like your Metallicas, your Megadeth, Judas Priest, but even bands like Nevermore or Sanctuary, who have a cult following, are still playing mid-level clubs. And those mid-level clubs are not going to be able to crank out $5,000 for a single band to go play. And that's not what our cost was, by the way, by a long shot. We weren't even a fifth of that. So.
Yeah, it comes down to, with these promoters, they really want to have some sort. I mean, you can't guarantee 100%, but they have to have a pretty damn good idea that, you're going to draw. And if they have any doubt about that, they're not going to want to invest the money. And what I'm really hoping is with this new album, the way it's being received, because I mean, I've seen a lot of reviews and talked to a lot of people in radio and fans, and that I have not yet heard one bad word about it. So, I mean, I'm hoping that it takes us to a level of notoriety that would more suggest that we would draw, and would be more security for promoters and let them loosen up the purse strings a little bit.
You almost have to be a guaranteed, hey, I'm going to sell 500 tickets for but venues, and not all of them. So this is not meant to like single anybody out, but venues learned in the 80s and the 90s that there was a lot of, they could get away with not advertising. And there's a lot of venues that don't advertise anywhere but their club. So they get the same people. They rely on local bands to sell tickets to the same people over and over again in order to bring people into the club. But won't advertise on radio or in the newspaper. And I get it. They have to keep their costs down. But at the same time, sometimes you do have to spend money to make money. that goes for us too. I mean, you know, there may come a point where we actually have to dig down deep and decide whether, you know, if going on a 10-state tour is going to be, you know, worth shelling out 10 grand out of our pockets to potentially not make it back. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the way I'm looking at it is, at least in the short run, the more realistic thing would be a smaller tour, tri-state area, something along those lines. You know, at least to start out with. I think that's a little more realistic right now. But, you know, hey, man, life is crazy. You never know what the hell's going to happen. So I try not to predict entirely what's happening, what's going to happen.
Yeah, some bands are like actually having crowd-funded tours.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they get their GoFundMe page and make some money. I actually seen a video from some guys who came all the way from Australia, and they were touring with Cradle of Filth, and they decided, well, we're on a big tour, let's get a big tour bus. Okay, guys, but you got to go buy the money you're making and the crowdfunding that you had. Maybe you should get a van. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, they went for the expensive thing, and about halfway through the tour with Cradle of Filth, they ran out of money.
Well, it wasn't the band I was expecting. Because it said it was on with Cradle of Filth, but.
Yeah. But, you know, and now they're on Facebook, you know, asking people to fund more money, and I'm like, well, you screwed yourself. You wanted to live the big rock star lifestyle, and if you're opening for Cradle of Filth on a major tour, you're getting decent money. You're not getting big time money, but why did you have to rent that big tour bus?
Well, I don't think most people do that at all anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is a business. You know, you got to look at, you know, something like a tour, you know, in a business mentality. And if you don't, it's gonna bite you in the ass like it obviously did with them.
But I mean, big ass tour bus is, you know,
Cheap.
no, even renting them, you're talking
Couple thousand.
tens of thousands. Well, yeah, tens of thousands of dollars over the length of a tour.
And they're going all the way across the United States in that thing, and it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And then
you gotta have something reliable to get you around, but you don't need something decked out.
Yep. I mean, they could have got a decent, like, 7-person van and a trailer and just been fine with it, but, you know. Oh, well. Lesson learned, because now they're trapped in the United States and got no way to get home.
Yeah. That's what makes it worse. I mean, if it was somebody, you know, if it was us and it was the United, you know, in this country, we could somehow get back home. But when you're talking about flying all the way to Australia, man, that's some serious cash.
Yep.
Yeah, because Australians don't even go on vacation on a yearly basis. I mean, those guys, they plan it out, and when they go, they're gone to wherever they're going for a few months.
Yep.
And then they don't vacation again for several years. So, yeah, I mean, there was a guy who came up here from Australia to go to several things, but then one just come to the Ragnarocker Festival in Chicago because we were playing there in 2014. That was part of his vacation. He was here for 3 or 4 months, and he went back to Australia. And he hasn't been back.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people like at Man of War shows and stuff, and people from the Netherlands, Germany, Japan, and they're in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm like, what are you doing here? Well, we're following them all the way around the world. I'm like, I wish I could afford that.
Yeah, well,
too rich for me.
I've seen them once, and that was the only time I've ever seen them. So
yeah, I think I've seen it about 15 times now. So. And I can still hear, amazingly.
Kinda,
yeah. The first time I saw him, I had ringing in my ears for 2 weeks, and I was all the way against the stage, and all I got was the back line. I didn't get the PA. And you get done with the show, and you look at your friend, and you sound like Alvin in the Chipmunks, because that's all you can hear is the high end. You couldn't hear nothing else. That's loud.
Yeah, that do that enough times. By the time you hit your 50s, you're gonna tell.
Yeah, after that, I'm like, I am wearing earplugs from now on.
Yep.
Well, hell, talk to Brian Johnson about that.
All right,
Yeah,
we're going to go into our next song. This is Acts of Evil. You guys want to talk a little bit about this one?
Well,
Not sure.
Jeff's been paranoid about this song.
I would think. What's the other single? You know, they're
Yeah, he's afraid that his lyrical content are going to piss off some of the wrong people.
that's what metal's about, you know.
Yeah, I actually.
Well, these people you don't really want to piss off.
I actually. It's about extremism in any form, and the hypocrisy that's within that. There are some lyrics in it that target specific group. I did ask the band before I finished writing it if it was okay if I wrote it, and they all said okay, so I did. But there are some lyrics in it that reference specific groups. But essentially, it's about extremism and how by adhering to it's my way or the highway kind of mentality, that we end up just making everything worse. You can't. You can't. There's a line that you come to where we take vengeance too far. And when that vengeance is fueled by religious beliefs, whether it was the Christians in the Crusades, or whether it's today with today's terrorists, you're cutting the heads off of people because you're mad at a government. It's not gonna. That kind of thing never works. It only angers the opposite side and leads to more violence. I am not a peacenik. I don't believe in turning the cheek twice. You know, you do it once, fine, but you know, if you keep being abused, you don't allow yourself to be put in that situation. I'm not the guy who goes like, you know, no guns, but you know, cutting the head off of somebody who happens to be from a country or that's not going to do you any good. It's you just made somebody else angry, extenuated. It's an escalation. So essentially, that's kind of what the song is about. Like I said, it does mention specific groups within the lyrics, but it applies to everyone.
Yeah, the title actually was kind of a play on words. If you think about the term axis of evil,
yeah, there is a reference to World War II and the Axis, the AXIS. That is true too. The title is a play on words.
Alrighty, well, this is Axis of Evil on this Friday Night Spotlight.
Terror, horror, death.
ain't no more. Axes of evil, inventions taking heads, bathed in blood of fallen heroes, in hypocrisy you rest.
I used to play in.
Sorry, guys. Should have gave you a warning. That just threw me off again. So you guys got anything like you like to say about the scene that's going around as far as musical attitudes and people's idea of how music is today?
Gravy.
Picking your brain.
Yeah, I mean, our local scene, I mean, it definitely could be better, but it could be worse too. I mean, I've heard of bands being their local scene, there was basically nowhere to play, period. At least around here, there are some places to play, even though some of them are kind of falling by the wayside lately over the last few years. But, yeah, I do think that people as a whole respect original bands actually a little more than they did in the 80s. That's probably the best thing I could say about it.
I don't know about that. I think
just my personal experience.
The popularity of cover and tribute bands over original bands has always baffled me.
Yeah, me too.
I don't like to go see a band perform other people's music. But when I do, they always seem to pack a place out. And it's nothing against the players. I mean, they're doing what they want to do.
A couple members of our band are in tribute bands.
Yeah. But I just don't. It's not something I have ever enjoyed. I get bored with a cover or a tribute band very quickly. And I don't understand the mentality of that goes, I want to go out and see a band who's going to play my favorite songs, but they're not. It might as well be a jukebox to me, and that is massively more popular than original bands these days to a large extent.
Well, they always have been, at least
right.
since I came into the scene in like '85.
But I think it's even becoming more so now because of the smaller number of venues and the large number of tribute bands that are out there. I mean, You see more and more of it, and people will pay to see those bands, and they won't necessarily go out to see. And I personally would much rather pay to see an original band, even if I've never heard of them before. If you're good, I'll buy your CD while I'm there.
Yeah, and I mean, I've got, obviously nothing against tribute bands. Our our bass player, drummer, and other guitar player all play in tribute. But as far as playing in one is concerned, to be honest, and I've told a lot of people this, just for me, songwriting is my favorite thing above everything else. I absolutely love to do it. It's what I take pride in. And, it's one of the big reasons why I've stuck being a musician all these years. And if somebody told me that, okay, you could never write music again, but you could play in a tribute band that will travel all over the United States and make you buku bucks, I'd quit playing before I'd only be able to play in a tribute band.
Yeah.
It's just not something I personally dig.
But as far as attitude goes, I think I can't be 100% sure how much it is, but I think there's a devaluation of original music. People don't put as much stock and value in it as we used to. But that's not because of heavy metal or that's everything. Mm-hmm. That's an across the board kind of deal. There used to be a community that revolved around concerts and live shows and going to see a band that was original. That used to be the thing. You did that because not necessarily because it was cool, but because there was an interest, and that interest is flagged.
I never saw that.
Well, think about it.
Country you're in.
Yeah, think about it. I mean, how much you used to go play at Ramones in this area, and every time I attended a show at Ramones, there was enough of a crowd to half or better fill that dance floor, and that's kind of hard to achieve. That's kind of hard to achieve in a lot of places now. Of course, but that's the whole. That's again the part of the devaluation kind of thing. It also you have to pile all those other things onto it now too, where people are afraid to go out to events because what if this event might get shot at or trouble might start. So there's a lot of things that all fall into that, but I would like to see that sense of community come back stronger. There are groups that are trying to do that. The NYDM and groups like it who are trying to bring back the community part of music. But as of yet, it hasn't succeeded. There's been a little bit of change, but it hasn't come back yet.
Well, the reason why I said what I said earlier was because just me personally, when I talk to people and things like that, the people that I've talked to seem to be a little bit more impressed about that somebody is in an original band and is with a signed band than they were when we were signed in the 80s. They just seem to have more interest. But that's just my personal experience.
And when it comes to the metal community, we're pretty much collectors when it comes to music. We like a band, we buy everything we can find on it. If you like certain genre, you go out and search for every genre of that metal that you enjoy the most. It's more of a collective mentality when it comes to the metal fans, I believe.
Well, the thing is, too,
compared to the general population, where they're just like, well, I've never heard of those guys. Why do I want to check them out? Well, everybody you've heard on the radio at one point was a local band. They don't just come up out of nowhere. You got to get your start somewhere. But
they used to do that, though. People used to go out to see a band, or even not necessarily that, but they used to go out. Period. Yeah. Like the whiskey in L.A. You went out to a club. And the band that was there, if you like them, you might start following them.
Yep.
But people don't go out anymore.
Yeah.
They don't even leave their homes. I mean, we got Netflix, we got YouTube, we got movies on DVD, we got video games. You know, it's a situation in which it's not as valuable as it used to be. I mean, after this is over, I'm headed out tonight to a club who's got a couple of bands playing, and I'm taking a whole bunch of Toys for Tots. But people don't do that. They don't go out. They stay in.
And I think that's a lot more prevalent in this country than, say, in Europe.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, Europe they still go out to the local pub and have a pint with their friends and listen to a band.
Mm-hmm.
There's still an active community revolving around their nightlife.
The festival circuit, even the smaller ones. You know, the people go to those festivals, to a couple of them by the tens of thousands. You know, and there are people over there who travel from festival to festival to festival. But over here, you only hear of a couple good big festivals, you know, Rock on the Range, maybe Rocklahoma. But most of the festivals here are smaller, like the Hollow Fest or, you know, things like that.
Milwaukee Metal Festival. And
yeah.
Ink and the Clink here is getting pretty big. Every year they've improved it, so it's pretty cool that you get to go and tour the haunted prison, and tattoos are going on. It's kind of a different feel. It's not like they have like a limit that they can have there every day, because it's the historical society. We don't want the place trashed, so but,
yeah.
But you know, it's getting pretty big. I've been there a couple times now and had a lot of fun. I've met a few bands that I play now, and it's becoming kind of a community here every year, so it's getting cool.
That's pretty awesome.
So we need to get you
anytime
here.
Anytime I hear of a festival in this country actually doing better and raising up, I'm psyched about it.
Well, you know, it's a tattoo and a music fest together, so you got kind of the meld between the two kind of crowds. And there's all kinds of vendors there and stuff too that sell merchandise and oddities and different things. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, sounds like something to look into.
The guy who runs it, his name is Rick Fields, and if you look at the Whiskey Warehouse on Facebook, you can get a hold of him and see that here in Mansfield. So I think he's probably going to start booking again here soon.
Cool.
All right. Well, I'm going to play one more song before we wrap this up. This is your remake of Death Before Dishonor. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, this one's on me. This is one of the two songs that I wrote the words for a while ago. You know, the tune was always something that we played back in the day. Every show, even up till even in the early days when the band became The Awakening, we played it.
We still do.
Yeah, it was one of the most popular tunes live back in the day. And it's not in the original version. We made several changes to the tune musically. Lyrically, it's the same, but musically, we changed around a few things, and I think made it a lot cooler and more interesting. So it's got our stank on it, but you know, the actual song I wrote back in like 1987 or 86, and yeah, it was it's been one of the staples of this band for a long time. And because of that, I figured, well, you know, why don't we play it, you know, back a few years ago. And then when we started figuring out what we were going to put on this album, we decided to go ahead and throw that one on here too. You know, the album that it came on, self-titled Death Before Dishonor, the recording was crapola, but the album did really well. surprisingly enough, it got great reviews worldwide. I always wondered how this band would be right now if that album was professionally recorded, because even that crap recording got fantastic reviews everywhere. But I thought it's kind of cool, kind of show respect for the past and the band as it was back in the day, but put our little extra type of feel to the song, and Geoff, the way he sings it is different, and the way Denny played, the drums is different, and we changed a little bit in the riffs themselves. So it's our song. It's the current Axemaster song in a way, and it's in a way from 1986 or 87, which I think is a nice, cool blend. It shows respect to roots, but at the same time shows how we progressed as musicians over the years.
Alrighty, well, this is Death Before Dishonor, and that starts right now on your Friday Spotlight with Axemaster.
Before dishonor. Living a lie ain't life at all. Just a masquerade before the fall. Take a look at the way you are.
And we're back here with Axe Master. Really appreciate you guys coming in on my show this evening for the 400th episode. And I look forward to
anniversary.
Anniversary. 500 is getting here quick. 100 more shows, and I'm 500. I'm going to try to do something big for that too. Like a final plug for like your websites or how they can pre-order your album or anything like that nature.
Sure.
What?
Website is axemasterofficial.com, and you can find the links to all the Facebooks and Twitters on that main page. You can pre-order the album by going to puresteel-records.com. They do all the pre-ordering there. You will be able to buy it from us. We have them, and unless they sell out really fast, then we should have them for a bit. So either or is fine by us.
Yeah, and you can. I also just put up on the web store copies of the re-release vinyl album that came out from stuff done between 85 and 91. It's a 2-record set. It's really, really cool. I'm really proud of it. And I never thought we'd be on vinyl again, but it's pretty cool. So that's available there. All kinds of stuff is available on our web store. And if you send us a message, we will definitely get back with you. If you contact us on Facebook or via our website, sometimes it takes a little bit because we're always doing so many things, but guarantee we'll get back to you, because to me and to us, I'm sure I can speak for everybody, the fans are the most important thing. I mean, for me personally, starting this band back in 85, we would not be able to be here and have an album out on a label like Pure Steel, have this vinyl out and all that if it wasn't for fan support. So, you guys are number one, and we will never forget that we are metal fans first and foremost. So, we're all in this together. And I give the fans total props, and always, we're not unapproachable or the type of people that think we're any better than fans, because we are fans.
Well put. Well, once again, thanks you guys for coming on the show this evening. I'm going to let you go so you can go check out your club and whatever else you need to do. And I know you guys got some video shoot and a show tomorrow, so I didn't want to keep you guys too long this evening. So we'll have to do this again.
Indeed. Absolutely.
And it's always fun to talk to you guys.
Well, it was a pleasure being here. I enjoyed it, as always. So, anytime you want to talk to us, we're around. We're not too far.
Yeah,
really.
You ought to come up to a show sometime if we're playing up in the Akron area.
I've been hoping to do so. It's things happen and trying to get out and do stuff and do the show. I'm DJing 7 days a week now, so.
Yeah, you'll get that 500 fast.
Yep. Alrighty, guys. Well, take care. We'll talk again soon, and we're gonna get back into some music here for the people for the rest of the evening. Until next time.
So many screams, so little time.